Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp and to the series where we look at some interesting games we've been playing and tell you a little bit about them.
Yep, we've got 6 games here to talk about, 3 games each, of course. Just games that we've been playing recently. They don't have to be new games, although having said that, some of them are.
As last month, we are able to carry on our discount on our website so you can save a bit of money on your games or your eShop credit. Use code SwitchUp, you'll get 5% off instantly and 5% back in coins.
So which games have we been playing recently? Well, let's find out.
Starting off then, we have a game from I think it's a single indie developer, and it's called Belle Boomerang, which I started playing yesterday, and it reminded me quite a bit of some of the old Amiga games and the old Sinclair Spectrum games I used to play.
Yeah.
Very simplistic art style, pretty simple concept, but it's nice to be playing a game where it's a bit more linear, you know, moving stage to stage, simple attack with your boomerang. You get different abilities that go into this second slot at the bottom of the screen, and they'll allow you to do different things like possessing these small statues,
right,
which you can then do a ground stomp to damage enemies as they come towards you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But then you can leave the statue and use it as a platform to then reach different areas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then between levels, you've got this area it's like a hub, but it's more of a story hub. So there'll be people that give you tips on how to play the game. It just gives it a bit of a heart, you know?
Yeah, it just fills it out a little bit, I guess.
Exactly right. But it's a very fun game. I was enjoying it, and it's more complex than I initially thought, and also more tricky. So like the first area is very simplistic. The second area has got a puzzle element to it. You have to jump across and get a rose and then make your way back to the start area. But what you're doing is there's a creature at the top of the level that you're actually trailing across the screen. So it's following you.
Right.
And then it breaks the wall for you to get into that next area.
Oh, right.
I honestly thought the game was broken when I first played it. It was one of those awful moments, and you'll see in the footage as well. I'm sure you'll show all me dying and like completely clueless as to what to do. But you do really have to use your brain to get through these puzzles.
Right. And again, that old school approach of not being spoon-fed it and having to figure it out, you know?
Completely. Yeah. Exactly that. I'm having a bit of a like Game Boy Color renaissance at the moment as well. So seeing that kind of simplified backdrop, I like it. It's nice.
It looks decent. Yeah, good ones to play sometimes for sure. But my first one then is Danganronpa 2, which I think the tagline for is Goodbye Despair. So I mentioned the first Danganronpa in one of these episodes a while back, and I've recently completed it. Really enjoyed it. And what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to do a quick spoiler talk now about the end of that game, just so I can lead into the second one. So I'll timestamp it if you don't want that game spoiled. Obviously, you can join us back in a second to talk about the second game. So for the next minute or so, it's going to be spoiler talk. So yeah, what I really liked about that first game was, there was lots I liked about it, but I loved the ending in particular. I really enjoyed the story, and I was saying to you, Mark, that it was very, it was a bit in your face at times for me. You know, a bit fan servicey and lots of shouting and you know, over the top moments, which isn't my cup of tea. But I could persevere through that because the story itself was great, you know. And the ending, I was just saying to Mark, what I loved about it was that, so you're basically, you know, your characters are in this school and they've been told that the only way they can get out is if they murder one of their classmates and get away with the murder, and then you have a class trial after every murder that takes place. But then they eventually find out that there's been this kind of catastrophic event elsewhere in the world, and the world is in ruins, and they actually volunteered to go into this school forever because they were seen as like humanity's last hope, and they were like the beacons of hope, and they'd had their memories wiped. So the whole thing, all the murders, all the killing had been for nothing because they actually volunteered to be here, which I thought was a great twist. And then it ended, what I really loved about it was it ended with them not quite sure whether that was true or not. Whether it was like, you know, the antagonist's last stand trying to get them to turn on each other. And then the doors opened and it just faded to white. And it reminded me a bit of the ending of Total Recall.
Yeah.
When you weren't quite sure if he'd had a lobotomy or whether it was in his mind or, you know. So I just thought that was a great ending. Really enjoyed that.
I was saying to Glen, it sounds really similar to the Netflix series Alice in Borderlands.
Right.
So if you've seen that, they must have taken inspiration by the sounds of it. Really similar premise. Again, I won't spoil anything on there, but it's worth watching, I'd say, if you're a Danganronpa fan.
Oh, nice. Right, we'll come back to number 2 now. So welcome back, anyone that skipped the spoiler part. So in terms of the sequel, now I'm not quite sure yet, I must say. I've only played up until the first murder. There's just been the first murder. I'm not sure if it's a sequel in terms of continuity or if it's just the same premise played out again. So this time you're on a beach resort, and again it is similar in the sense that you all turn up, all these characters turn up, they don't remember much about themselves, they've all got a special skill, they're all the best of something, hence the reason they go to this school, and they're going there on the premise of like a school trip, like a residential trip, but when they get there they're told they have to stay there. But it starts out in a very different way to the first one, whereby they're being told they're there to garner hope to beat despair, but then it turns out the antagonist from the first game, it's like this bear called Monokuma, turns up and says, no, actually you're here and you're going to kill each other or you're going to stay here forever. So it has a very similar premise, but it's a bit of a slow burn compared to the first one. The first one just jumped straight in with that idea. And I wonder if I hadn't played the first one first, not that generally you'd play a sequel without playing the first one, whether I would have enjoyed it so much, because I knew what was coming. Do you know what I mean? But it's just had the first murder, so we're just getting to that point where it's gonna, I'm sure it's going to start ramping up. But yeah, quite an interesting twist on how they've started this one, I must say.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. It's funny, isn't it? Because the sequel done right does rely on certain aspects of the first game.
Yeah.
You know, if it's done right. But not all of them do need it.
Yeah, exactly. And it looked for a while like it was going to go off in a different direction. And it was a direction, I must say, that I was like, it seems too different for me. I liked what the first one did. And I am glad they've kind of done this twist now where we're back to that kind of formula of you must kill to survive. But I'm just intrigued to see how they take it on from this point. I'm too early in to know yet. But obviously with knowledge of the first game, I'm quite interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I still need to finish up completely all the side activities in Raincode.
Yeah.
But everyone says, same team, you should go and play Danganronpa. So I need to make that happen at some point.
For sure.
Then I've got Koa and the Five Pirates, which came out last week. It was from Chibig. If you remember Chibig, they did Summer in Mara, which I had a real issue with because it was just the ultimate fetch questathon. Like the art and everything, and the premise was really nice. You had a bit of farming aspect to it. But this time around, they've taken things into an old school 3D platformer direction. So you've got your hub area, which is essentially the starting island. And I've seen a few reviews and bits and bobs of this since it's come out. I've 100%ed it with my daughter. We played through every stage. We did every unlock, like absolutely everything. And I don't necessarily agree with some of what I've read and seen. And I think it's a very good old school 3D action platformer.
Okay, yeah.
So I think, it's a little bit simplistic in certain regards. You do have that hub area. There's a few little shops and bits you can unlock. They give you cosmetics. There's nothing major that, that doing side content gives you other than satisfaction and high scores and things like that.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the way, you used to go for the extra content and you'd have the satisfaction of unlocking everything and getting those best times. And it's split into two things. So you've got your little boat that goes around to the different islands, and then you're completing quite traditional stages with a few hidden items in them. They're really well designed, I have to say. The platforming is solid. I think one of the critiques that I've heard is in the control method. And I have to say, for the first hour, I did kind of agree. So you can jump, and then if you press the jump button just before you hit the ground, you do a roll.
Okay.
And if you jump again, you'll do a faster kind of like woohoo! You'll do your move that speeds you up.
Right.
And it's because the game's got a built-in speedrunning mechanic. And for my 2 cents, it's in there as an intrinsic design choice because it takes a little bit to master it.
Yeah.
And obviously for most of the stages, you don't need to do that.
Right.
But you have, once you've completed a main stage, you've got race stages, and you do need it to win those races.
Oh, I see.
So it's got like 4 of you racing against each other. And I really like that, because it took away the this or that. You don't just have to be amazing. You could be a bang average player, complete the normal stages, and then do those races if you like that kind of experience. It's tough. It is brutally tough. And when you die, you have to restart and things like that. For me, I thought it worked really well. Actually, I thought it was really, really fun to the point where we went and did all the extra content just because we wanted to play more stages.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
You get little ship upgrades as well, which I thought was a nice touch. So that helps you unlock that extra content. Like you can jump over these whirlpools, and it's just really well designed. I don't have any flaws with it really. For what it wants to do, I just really enjoyed it.
It might be, just thinking while you're talking there, Mario 64, obviously Mario had that treble jump that he did, and that was quite intrinsic to the gameplay because you needed it to get past certain stages, and maybe people are just almost subconsciously comparing it to that game and saying, that game's 20 odd years old now and it was so much simpler there, but that was because you needed it, whereas this is because it's for that mastery, isn't it?
That's exactly right. That is exactly what they've done. Yeah, perfect description, because you don't need it. You don't need it to complete the game at all. Yeah. And it's literally there to supplement the race stages.
Right.
So you've hit the nail on the head, and I'd say that's exactly why, because you could have made it much easier to do, but it would have destroyed the race sections.
Yeah. And I suppose, again, talking about Mario 64, I mean, if you got all the stars in that game, what was it, 120 I think stars, then you could unlock a cannon that shot you up to the roof of the tower of the castle, and Yoshi was up there, and he said well done.
Yeah, good job.
Have some extra lives, and he just went, and that was it. I mean, so if you're talking about kind of superfluous extra content, you know, I mean, it was there in spades, you know, but
exactly right.
I suppose, I don't know, maybe people just expect a bit more these days. I don't know.
I thought, and to be honest, I did expect more. After the last game, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed.
Oh, nice.
So enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Right, well, from a 3D platformer then to a 2D one, because my next one is, again, we spoke about recently, actually, that's Tiny Thor, which we both played and both really enjoyed. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, really good game.
Yeah, great game. Really, really enjoyed this. So it goes for that kind of 16-bit art style. We mentioned in our previous video some of the influences that we felt it had in terms of the way it played. You kind of had your Mario, just traditional bounce on enemies sort of thing. You had your Sonic in terms of the way that you could collect something before dying. But there were a couple of other games actually when we made that video, and one in particular that I didn't even think of at the time, almost ashamed to say, because obviously you have your hammer that you throw, and you have like we said like a puzzle bubble kind of trajectory arc, and you can see where it's going to go and where it's going to bounce from, which obviously games like Yoshi's Island used when you threw the eggs. I didn't even think of that. It didn't even occur to me that it was similar to that. But it's a very well crafted platformer. Really very enjoyable. I've played a lot more of it since we last spoke. I'm loving it. I really do think it's up there with some of the best on the Switch, you know?
Yeah, I agree. There's some of the puzzles as well are so clever. So your hammer will always bounce off the edge of the screen. That's a really intrinsic mechanic that takes a while for you to fully adopt. So there's certain ones, like you say, that you'll fire the hammer down and it'll be knocking a platform up.
Yeah.
So you'll have to jump, moving the screen, and then that will then lift the hammer, and
right.
you know, you basically can levitate yourself up to the hidden secrets and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And at first the puzzling seemed quite simplistic.
Yeah.
And for the most part it is, to be fair. It is very much about, you know, trying to get your angles right and bounce into, get your hammer to knock a switch and whatnot. But as you say, there are moments where you use it in almost like a physics-based way that are very clever. And it very much has, as well as the games we've already mentioned, it very much reminds me of Donkey Kong Country 2, specifically the second game. In terms of the layouts of some of the levels, the backdrops, you know, the themes of some of the levels, and the way that you have to kill particular enemies to kind of get through the stages.
Yeah.
And that's a great game, by the way. You know, that's a very good, if you're going to use inspiration from anything, certainly use that game. But it's one I know we've mentioned, we did a video on, but I just think it's one that will get buried.
Yeah.
It will get lost in the you know, the absolute mess that is the eShop, and it's one that deserves to be remembered, really, because I do think it's one of the best platforms I've played in a long time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that there's a physical coming for this one.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
It's one that needs a physical, and I do think, like you say, because of the time it's come out, if had this come out around the same time as like Celeste and things like that, I think this would hold a bit of an iconic status by now.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like Owlboy did for a while, didn't it?
Exactly right. Yeah. It's a brilliant platform.
Yeah.
That's not like too much hyperbole, it's brilliant. And like you say, the mechanics work almost seamlessly. And for me, if you have played the B-side of Celeste, you kind of know that difficulty spike.
Right, yeah.
This game's tough if you do those optional ones that I still haven't managed to do.
And also, I didn't realise this, one of our friends and writers sometimes on the channel, Dave over at SaveDecks, he messaged me just after seeing our video, and he said he's actually got not a prequel exactly, but you know, their first game, which was also based around the idea of, you know, Nordic mythology, and had a young protagonist of a similar ilk, and I can't remember the name of it now, I will flash it up on screen, but they actually had a previous game, which I didn't realise, on the Switch. And also, I think I'm right in saying, you've reminded me by mentioning the physical, that the physical will come with that game included too.
Wow.
Which is quite cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can get a couple of those and we can stick those in one of these and have a little chin wag. My last one then is Nobunaga's Ambition.
Yep.
Which is a Koei Tecmo classic strategy game. Reminded me a little bit of my old school favourite series, which was the Shogun Total War series from back in the day. Old PC real-time strategy game.
Yes.
Amazing, top down. This was way more complex than I thought it would be, and it's kind of the reason it didn't get a review on the channel, is because you need to put in like a good 40-50 hours, you know. Like it was one of those where you put your toe in and just fall down a well, you know. It's like, whoa, okay. But from what I played maybe 4 or 5 hours. I was really enjoying it. So you get put in charge of a province, a prefecture, a part of Japan, with the goal of gradually expanding and you know, hopefully taking over. But each character has their own backstory, which is tied to the Romancing of the Three Kingdoms. Is that one?
Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Yeah, the Three Kingdoms era.
Yeah.
And you can choose whether you want it historical or if you want it made up.
Right.
So I went for the historical one just because it's a bit more interesting. And you get all of the relationships from that era tied into the strategy, which is quite interesting. So you have your generals and you can like promote them into different areas. And I just liked how seamlessly that was done. I was quite impressed on Switch. Like you could zoom all the way down and see, right down into your town and then make changes and then pass the seasons, speed up time and, see the way it was developing. And it was just so deep. Like it was just so deep. Now, I haven't played enough to fully give a verdict on its longevity. But for my playstyle, like I used to love the old strategy games, like the ones we mentioned, that they took a long time to get going.
Yeah.
It's a slow burner. And this feels very similar to that. What I haven't done yet is any combat. So I haven't got to the combat side, which again is one of those you can spend 5 hours and not have a single combat instance because you may be trying to win the game through influence rather than combat.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, there's actually, I think I'm right in saying there's 3 of these games on the Switch, but 2 never left Japan.
Wow, okay.
Because I have played one of these on the PlayStation 4, and I had played a couple of the Romance of the Three Kingdom games on the Super Nintendo.
Right.
Or certainly one, actually. It might just be one, sorry. But I played it via the the virtual console. Didn't play it back in the day. I don't even know if it came this way back then. But when I'd seen there was one for the Switch, I was quite excited to play it. But as I said, it was Japanese only. So it's nice to see that they have now released a version in the West too. It's a shame it hasn't got a physical. Again, not outside of the West. It has in, Play Asia, places like that are your friend.
Has it got English on it?
I believe so. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it has.
Do you know anywhere I could get a discount for that?
Pretty sure there's a link down there that'll help you out with that. But I mean, all jokes aside, it would have been nice to see it get a full Western release, This is not the sort of game I'd want to spend 50 quid on to have it digitally. No. Which is a shame. But I do really like these games. As you say, they're the sort of games that you can play for 10 hours and still not really understand it. Probably double that, actually. You'll have a grasp of it and you'll kind of get along, but then eventually you get to that point where it just clicks and you do become the general you were destined to be,
It is exactly like that. These games were always the same. I remember picking similar ones up on PC, and as a young kid, you didn't have the tutorials either. Yeah. So you just kind of had to do stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would go well, and sometimes it'd be an absolute balls up. And it feels similar here, to be honest, because I'm not willing to sit through reams of tutorial. I'm like, let's go.
Exactly.
I'm going to hire this person. Oh, they've died. All right, brilliant. All right, we're going to go and build that farm or whatever, and just see how it plays out. And you can do that here. And there is a tutorial if you're a bit more patient than me.
It's funny you say that because, again, talking about the Super Nintendo, a game that I played on there a lot and really enjoyed was Megalomania.
Great game. Oh,
yeah.
Really. I've got it. Do you remember that? I couldn't. Sorry to interrupt you.
Right.
But there were so many one-liners. Like as a child, I almost went mad. Yeah. Like, I couldn't stop saying certain ones. It's the wizard. That was another one.
I'm assuming you played it on PC, did you? Chances are a lot of those lines got cut for the Super Nintendo. They might not have done. I can't remember, but I loved playing it. Game. But what happened was the other month now it would have been, I bought one of the Evercade compilations and it had the Mega Drive version of Megalomania on it. So I'm assuming the games are relatively similar, no tutorials, and I was sitting there like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, no.
I know what to do because I've played it before, but I don't know how to do it. And it took me forever. And as a kid, somehow you managed to do it, you know?
You did. There's got to be something said for that, I'd say. There has to be something said for that, because you had to do a lot of like lateral thinking and stuff to get this stuff working.
Yeah.
People don't have that anymore.
No,
It's all so easy. Like, it gives you like 4 stages of tutorial.
Yeah.
Bro, take Megalomania. Have that.
There is something to be said for having a tutorial by all means, but scaling it back a bit.
Scale it back.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to read War and Peace
Press
before I go to
jump.
war.
I can figure that out.
Yeah, or you've got exactly right, the other end of the spectrum where it's just insultingly, in terms of what it's showing you. But
nice. We're old.
Exactly. I'm proud. And the final one then is another one that I have reviewed, but it's the one that's taken the most time up recently, so it's one I want to talk about a bit more, and that's Pikmin 4. Now, I say it's taken most of my time up. It's not exactly true. It's taken my wife's time up, and I've had to watch her play it, which has been annoying, to be honest. Like, she's literally just taken it over. She's obsessed with the game. But it's been nice actually seeing her play it, because she's not much of a gamer, and every so often a game will come along that piques her interest.
Yeah.
And then she just like devours it and plays it until it's completed. And it's doing the channel and not being able to do that anymore because you've got to move on to the next game so quickly. It's actually quite nice seeing someone just play something for fun. Do you know what I mean?
People are loving this one. there's a big consensus. Like most people think it's the best Pikmin, with a few issues with controls and stuff, but generally like the actual gameplay ideas.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my favourite. I think it's too early to say. I think honestly,
you need to do the 100% like your wife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need to actually play it and get the controller off of her. But no, I think obviously because I've had so many years of playing the others, and certain things you start to really love over time. And you're right in what you just said about the gameplay features in this one. They've added some really great ideas.
Yeah.
And in terms of pure gameplay, this is probably objectively the best. But in terms of my style of playing these sort of games, I love playing with a hint of pressure on you. And in the first game you had to find X amount of pieces before the days, the count of days was over, otherwise you couldn't get home. In the third game you were collecting fruit to make drinks for sustenance, and if you ran out of drinks you couldn't continue. So I liked that premise in those two games, but I could fully understand people hating that because it adds that extra pressure, So just for my play style, I liked having fewer things to find and there being a bit more of a consequence if you didn't find them.
Yeah. How do you feel about the inclusion of the dog?
It worked quite well. I mean, it was almost like the purple Pikmin who had like the strength of 10 normal Pikmin.
Yeah.
He kind of used, he's used like that to some degree, and obviously the purple Pikmin are in this as well. But I liked the idea of you training him. I thought that was quite clever. And you could train him to swim, and then obviously you could jump on his back with the Pikmin. It was nice the way that was drip fed in.
Yeah.
I think if they'd just give you everything with him to start with, it might have upset the balance. But having it drip fed and having you choose the way that you trained him was quite clever,
Yeah, for sure. From the change to the Unreal Engine, like I'm a bit of a nerd, I like this kind of stuff, so I'm going to ask you a question about it. How were the visuals in the end? Like, was it a big step up?
Without playing, I'd have to compare it to the third one. I think anything past that would be unfair. Without playing the third one again properly to kind of remind me, I wouldn't be able to tell if it was a step up. It still has that lovely look to it, that kind of magical world of being somewhere where you're so small and everything, just ordinary objects are so large. It looks great, I'll say that much. It really does look lovely. No performance issues
that's
at
the
all.
question, was
I mean, it's probably the most pressing issue when it comes to Unreal on Switch anyway, isn't it? And if anyone's going to get it right, you bloody hope it was Nintendo, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? So I can't say if it looks better, but it runs in a way that shows Unreal can work on Switch.
All right, brilliant. Well, that is the end of the list. I'm going to add in one little discussion point, very short, very succinct. And obviously, there's been pretty much confirmed information about a Switch 2 or whatever the next Nintendo console is going to be for 2024. They're thinking, announcement early to mid and then release late. What are we feeling about that? Because everyone keeps asking, what do you guys think about that? We'll let you know at the end of something. Yeah,
it depends, I suppose. There's so much to know, isn't there? Because with Nintendo, it's never as simple as it will be more powerful. So it's what it's going to be. If it's going to be a Switch 2, it's going to take what the Switch does and make it more powerful. It's a win, 100% win. If they're going to go mad and create a new peripheral, or you have to stand upside down to play it, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah. I mean, I get the channel, I would say, would just carry on to whatever's next.
The
name SwitchUp means change up.
I
think it will be a Switch. I do think it will have the same form factor. I am leaning towards the potential that the dock is more powerful. And when you dock it, it can do things like 4K and slightly higher things. I would say the console itself, because of the things like the Steam Deck and other mobile PCs, they have more pressure to improve performance. I really do. I think there's talk about it being the same power as a PS4. I said in a community post or something that I hoped it would be able to run Unreal Engine 5 quite well, because it would mean that third party had an easy job of porting things over. I mean, the Switch, they have pulled off some miracle ports, but going back and playing The Witcher 3 now that it's got this new update, it runs a bit crap. It doesn't run very well, and it's just not a great look. Like, I would love for 30 FPS minimum, on every game, and then all your old backwards compatibility, so you can play everything at 60. I must admit, I didn't know. I wasn't really thinking about how Nintendo have such a good history of backwards compatibility, but they do, don't they? Like, we had the 3DS and the newer one, and
I mean, I was going to say mainly for handhelds, but even that's not fair, because you could play GameCube games on the Wii, and you could play Wii games on the Wii U. So no, actually, they do that quite well, and you would, as you say, you would hope that comes across. I would be shocked if it isn't a straight up Switch 2, because although with the Wii, which was wildly successful, they did change it then for the Wii U and it didn't work. I think Nintendo themselves knew that the Wii's success was based on a gimmick.
Yeah.
I don't think the Switch is a gimmick. Do you know, the way that you can transfer from portable play to
useful.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Hence the reason that the Steam Deck exists. Do you know what I mean? So I think they must have themselves known that the waggle era was over with the Wii, and they had to do something else. I don't think they have to do anything else this time. They just need to make it better. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just thought I'd throw that in there. A little chat about that, because I'm sure there's a few subscribers that are interested in our thoughts.
Yeah. Please do stick your thoughts down below. What do you think is going to happen? What will the next variation of the Switch be?
Lovely. Thanks so much to all of you that enjoy the content. Please do get your eShop credit over at switchup.gg using code SwitchUp, where, as I said at the start, you'll save a bit of money and it supports us as well. We get a little kickback from Nintendo. Buy your physical games over at PlayAsia using the code stated down in the description. And yeah, just a big thanks to all of you.
Absolutely. One more thanks to our patrons and our channel members, of course. And until next time, happy gaming.